Organisers were hoping for a large turnout for the March for Life, especially after last Saturday's Women's March on Washington saw hundreds of thousands protest, many in favour of the female reproductive health care these marchers oppose.
You know, life is winning in America.
Vice President Mike Pence became the most senior administration official ever to address the marchers in its 44-year history.
Life! 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 Life!
And protesters were hopeful that with the new administration, the right of a woman to choose an abortion will be curtailed, if not outlawed. However, some seasoned observers were only cautiously optimistic.
We pro-lifers have learned the hard way that we don't put absolute trust in any politician because we've been so frustrated in the past.
But the polls suggest more and more Americans are in favor of a woman's right to choose. And reproductive healthcare groups say that with Donald Trump's election, a new awareness is emerging of what's at stake.
I think you woke up a sleeping giant. I think there was a generation of women who felt that these rights that they had in terms of being able to control their body were something that were given. And I think now they're realizing that that was not the case.
The marchers are heading to the Supreme Court, where they hope eventually a Donald Trump-nominated justice will help overturn a 1973 ruling that found that it was a woman's right to make their own medical decisions without the interference of politicians. Appointing an anti-choice Supreme Court justice is still some way away, but the protesters have been encouraged by President Trump's restoration of what's called the Mexico City policy. No foreign healthcare provider can now even mention the word abortion to its patients if it wants financial aid from the U.S. Some 12,000 kilometers from Washington, D.C., in a suburb of the Kenyan capital, one healthcare provider says it will not accept U.S. funding as a result. However, that loss of funding means it will have to scale back services for tens of thousands of women, not just abortions, but the provision of contraception, so vital in preventing unintended pregnancies and HIV.
That if women and girls are denied safe options, they often go to the back street and they use chemicals and sticks and other mechanisms that will damage their reproductive organs, and in some cases result in them bleeding to death.
Back in Washington, however, the protesters at the March for Life hope that the Trump administration has only just begun to address reproductive health care both at home and abroad. Shihab, Rittansi, Al Jazeera, Washington.